Well, Donald Trump should not have lost an ounce of sleep last night, as he was obviously a no-show in Milwaukee for the debate. But, man, my biggest takeaway last night, nobody showed up. Nobody stood out. There is no rock star waiting in the wings. It is Donald Trump's Republican Party. You know, it was lively last night. I got plenty of audio we'll play throughout the morning here on KCMO. By the way, happy Thursday. Welcome in. Thanks for joining us. But I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, which one of these people is actually going to potentially beat Donald Trump in a primary? Find me the person. And by the way, I think it would be best for the future of the GOP to have somebody who could challenge Donald Trump. Not beat him necessarily. Trump was always going to be the front runner, but just challenge him, right? Make him quake in his boots a little bit, sharpen his pencil a little bit, and, you know, let the chips fall where they may. But I'm watching this thing last night, and I'm like, that person does not exist. Now, here's the thing. I do think that these debate formats have gotten to the point as well where they're not really good for anybody for the most part. Like, nobody benefits from this kind of an environment outside of Trump. If you're quick, if you're witty, if you're funny like Trump, and, you know, substance is not always your thing, then these debate settings are outstanding. These kinds of debates play into Donald Trump's strengths. That's what they do. But last night, for the other candidates, as I'm watching them, as I'm trying to get a feel for who's who, what they seem like on the stage, none of them stood out. I was waiting for somebody to break through, and nobody ever did.
To your point, it feels like a game show when you get more than 4 people up there. It's like we're playing Weakest Link or something, right?
Yes, it is just too many people. My goodness. Why Doug Burgum, the North Dakota governor, the guy looked lost on stage. He was kind of looking around like, why am I here? It's like, I don't know. You tell me. Asa Hutchinson wasting everybody's time. Definitely knock those two off the stage for next time. And the other 6, you know, we could flip a coin on a Chris Christie, a Mike Pence, and folks like that. But I'm watching this thing last night, and I'm saying to myself, goodness gracious, is this the best we can do? Is this what we've got? But if you want actually winners of those on the stage, you know, the biggest winner last night is Donald Trump. But of those on the stage, there were 3 winners, and I'll tell you why. Ron DeSantis, because he didn't do himself any damage. As the guy who all the polling shows is in the number 2 slot, I thought that the knives were going to be out for DeSantis because theoretically, the knives on a debate stage are always out for the person who's in the lead, right? And on that stage last night, Ron DeSantis was the guy in the lead. That didn't really happen. Now, Ron was programmed. He was awkward. He was trying too hard. But he did fine. He didn't really hurt himself. He didn't take a lot of slings and arrows. He was just fine. He was too predictable is what he was. But once again, didn't hurt himself and did about what I expected. He's not Mr. Warm and Fuzzy. He's not Mr. Friendly. He's got to smile a little bit more. But that's just not who he is. And unfortunately, most of us have come to accept that. Vivek Ramaswamy, speaking of game shows, as John just mentioned there, he makes a lot of good points, but gosh, he comes off like a cheesy game show contestant. Like, you know, he's trying to be on Family Feud or something like that. It's just, it's tough. It's tough to like Vivek Ramaswamy with his approach like this.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight.
Hi.
Who the heck is this skinny?
Hey, everyone, it's all on your mind tonight. It's okay. Okay, Vivek. All right.
I was a fan, but I didn't like that. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah. And then
Bro.
Bro. Did you hear what he did right after this?
Guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage?
Skinny guy with a funny last name in the debate stage. You know who used that infamously? Barack Obama used that very same line back in 2008. You're probably wondering who this skinny guy is on the stage with a funny last name. Literally, that's a Barack Obama line. That's why I can't tell what Vivek Ramaswamy is exactly, and I'm going to do more on this as the show goes on. But I want to like the guy, but man, Like, some days I wonder if he's just a George Soros plant or something like that. Because he does have connections to the guy, by the way. And then the final winner that I didn't see coming was Nikki Haley. We said at the end of the show yesterday, I said, yeah, there's no way I'm going to play a Nikki Haley clip tomorrow. And then I'm like, actually, Nikki Haley was better than I expected. Jeez. I can't believe it. Unbelievable. So I'm watching this, and I'm saying to myself, you've got to be kidding me. Nikki Haley's having a couple of moments. Like, Nikki Haley is actually getting up on stage and saying things that make sense, pointed, personality, and I agree with.
Well, I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us, too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And
I'm like, yes, Nikki Haley, the only one making that point last night. She brought it up right out of the gates. And I'm like, wow, that was one of the best answers of the night.
I knew she had something in her. That's why I took the over right before it started.
You did take the over. 0.5 Nikki Haley clips I would play today, and I've already played one by 6:11 in the morning. I did not see that coming. But she's right to call out Republicans. I mean, these folks on stage talking about inflation, how we got here, $30 trillion in debt, Biden spends too much. Nikki's right. Almost half the people on stage are also responsible for the reckless spending. From Mike Pence to Tim Scott, I mean, you can go down the list of people who have played a role in the ridiculous spending. And she's right to call them out. She's right to point that out because it puts the Republicans in a tough spot when they complain about the debt when, from 16 to 20, they added, $7-8 trillion to the debt. Just doesn't make them look good. So it's not that, Nikki Haley's going to shoot up the polls, but she had a much better night than I expected. And, I've already played one clip of hers, believe it or not. Now, the losers. There were two losers coming out of last night. And I'm not even going to mention Asa Hutchinson and Doug Burgum because they had nothing to lose, so they can't be losers. But the losers last night were Mike Pence, who was just beyond annoying. I mean, my goodness. I tweeted this out last night. Mike Pence was absolutely unbearable. And I did not think he had that level of unlikability in him. Like, I always liked Mike Pence, and I still do. But gosh, he was so unlikable in that debate last night. I'm watching Mike Pence, and I'm like, who are you, and what did you do with Mike Pence? Because it was painful. He was acting so arrogant. For a guy who, the only reason he's on that stage is because Trump threw him a lifeline back in 2016 and named him his VP. It's the only reason anyone cares an iota about what Mike Pence thinks right now. And then Tim Scott. And Tim Scott comes out a loser just because, he was kind of in that Nikki Haley place. And she had a much better night than him. Tim Scott was too politician-y. It was too programmed. It was too predictable. It was too cheesy at times. There wasn't a lot there. That made me say, wow, boy, gosh, Tim Scott's having a moment. He never had one. And the fact that some of his cohorts there had better nights means that Tim Scott comes out an absolute loser. 913-408-7710. We're going to be talking a lot about this debate throughout the morning, of course, on KCMO. It aired last night from 8 to 10. If you heard it here on KCMO, well, we appreciate you listening to it on the radio. Coming up, I've got the speaking times. This is always interesting, the speaking times for each candidate. It also doesn't make a lot of sense. We'll get to that next on KCMO. So I'm sitting there watching the debate last night. We're about halfway through it, and my wife looks over at me, and she's like kind of watching, kind of on her phone, kind of paying attention, kind of not. And she just goes, "We're screwed, huh?" And I'm like, yep, we're pretty screwed. Yeah, we're definitely pretty screwed. I would agree with that assessment. That's all I got for you. And that certainly was a takeaway for me last night as well. You know, Joe Biden had a good night last night, I hate to say. Why did Joe Biden have a good night last night? Well, because Joe Biden, first off, I think wants to take on Donald Trump. He's already beaten him once, and that's the guy that he wants. And there was no star last night in the debate on that stage without Donald Trump. So that's number one. And then number two, let's not forget this. You know, with Trump not there, it potentially gives Joe Biden an out. If we do end up with a repeat of 2020, it potentially gives Joe Biden an out. To say, well, you know, Trump didn't debate in the primaries, so, you know, I'm new precedent. I'm not debating in the general. And Republicans always get lifts after debates in general elections. Like, just think back. Always when you get a Republican president on stage against a Democratic president on stage, and the ideas are actually flushed out between adults, typically Republicans end up with a bump. Republicans are the ones who always want to typically debate Democrats because Democrats live in la-la land with their ideas. They live in halls of college universities, right? They live in theoretical utopia. But then when you actually talk about like how to actually achieve certain things, they never have the answers. But they don't want to have those conversations. They want to be in their bubbles with their theoretical, you know, unicorns pooping Skittles over the rainbow that sounds so good to so many people until you actually talk about how to implement these things. And then you also talk about the downside of their ideas. And the biggest fear I have right now is not that Donald Trump can't win. I think he can win, with him being the clear front runner in the GOP primary. It's that the media will be completely in the tank for Biden. We know that. And then the only chance that Trump will really have, outside of advertising and things like that, to try to sell the American people on his vision and what he had done during his 4 years in office is going to be a debate. That's going to be it. And if the precedent is set that major political candidates don't have to debate, that's not a country I want to be living in right now. We need more debate, not less debate. Now, with that being said, last night's debate, we have the numbers. We have now the final speaking time totals for the first presidential primary debate. And who led the way? Who would you think? Would it be, I don't know, one of the front runners? Would it be a guy like Ron DeSantis? I don't know. Who Vivek Ramaswamy? Who would it be? It was Mike Pence. Really? It was Mike Pence. Mike Pence ended up leading the way in speaking time last night. 12 minutes and 26 seconds. Vivek Ramaswamy was second, the biotech entrepreneur, 11 minutes and 38 seconds. Then Chris Christie, 11 minutes and 37 seconds. Christie actually was, Chris Christie's not going to be president. I wouldn't vote for him to be president, but he actually had some decent commentaries last night. Thought he was okay, but here's the thing. Should Mike Pence and Chris Christie be in the top three of time speaking in a GOP primary debate when both guys combined are at like 6%? Is that in the best interest of Republican primary voters, that Mike Pence and Chris Christie were two of the three guys who spoke the most last night? Of course not. That doesn't make any sense. That's why I feel like this format is totally broken. Then you've got Ron DeSantis, 10 minutes and 1 second. Ron didn't hurt himself, didn't help himself last night. He's just too programmed. Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina, 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Then you go down to Tim Scott, Doug Burgum, and Asa Hutchinson came in at 7 minutes and 24 seconds. And I was surprised when I saw Asa. He was in last place, but I'm like, he got 7 minutes and 24 seconds, Asa Hutchinson? I can't remember 2.4 seconds of anything that guy said last night. But he came in dead last. Now, how does Mike Pence end up coming in first? Well, it's very easy when Mike Pence is doing things as unlikable as he was doing last night, like just mindlessly interrupting people, trying to be a tough guy.
And we are driving Russia further into China's arms. The Russia-China military alliance is the single greatest threat we face. Nobody in either political party is talking about it. And I am the only non-neocon on this stage who will keep us out of war.
Mr. Vice President, we can't hear. Mr. Vice President,
is to give Russia everything they've got.
Mr. Vice President,
give them a promise that Ukraine will never be in NATO.
I mean, then Mike just starts talking and he gets his 15 seconds, and basically Brett Baer and Martha McCallum told him politely to shut up and listen to the bell. Where's the civility bell when you need it? Ding, 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 ding. There it is. There we go. There's the civility bell. Break that sucker out. All right, for the candidates. They had a little bell last night, but nobody listened to it. That was the problem. But Mike Pence was acting like he was, top dog on the stage. And maybe Trump rubbed off on him a little too much in the wrong way, because that was not the gentleman Mike Pence that I've known. I always respected that Mike Pence. The Mike Pence from last night was making me want to puke. I mean, I don't know what he was going for there last night, but it was incredibly painful to watch. In fact, most of it was fairly painful to watch.
Yeah, that person was interviewed by Tucker Carlson. That's what I saw then. And I'm like, what's this about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying yesterday off the air. I'm like, he's my last place guy in this whole deal.
Yeah, and I think, you know what? For me as well, after last night, Mike goes way down the list. Way, way down. I was like, whoa, Mike, what are you doing here? 913-408-7710. That's our studio line and our text line as we react to last night's debate here on KCMO Talk Radio. Now, Donald Trump was obviously not there. The Trumpster did a sit-down with Tucker Carlson on X, and he explained why he was not at the debate last night. X is what Twitter used to be. So we've got what Trump had to say. He did a full, 50-minute sit-down with Tucker Carlson. And we'll give you Trump's answer explaining why he was a no-show last night, coming up next on KCMO. So the Trumpster was MIA last night. And as I said, for the days leading up to last night's debate, by the way, welcome in. Happy Thursday morning. When it came to Donald Trump, I wish he would have been there. I think it's better when the candidates show up. I don't want to set the precedent that if you're leading in the polls, you don't have to debate. That worries me from a general election perspective. But I also completely understand why he doesn't want to get on a debate stage with Asa Hutchinson. There's 8 people there last night, and Chris Christie. Like, I understand, based on the fact that he's been in the White House. It was all of 3.5 years ago. He's leading the polls by a mile. I understand why at this point in the game he doesn't feel the need to subject himself to it. But I don't like the precedent. So Trump last night does a sit-down with Tucker Carlson on X, formerly known as Twitter, and they dropped this video right before the Republican debate was set to air. And the first question that was asked by Tucker Carlson was, the obvious one.
Well, a lot of people have been asking me that, and many people said you shouldn't do them, but you see the polls have come out, and I'm leading by 50 and 60 points. And, some of them are at 1 and 0 and 2. And I'm saying, do I sit there for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, and get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that? And a network that isn't particularly friendly to me, frankly. They were backing Ron DeSanctimonious like crazy, and now they've given up on him. I mean, it's a lost cause. It reminded me very much of 2016. In 2016, I went through the same stuff and had to fight them all the way, and then they became very friendly after I won, or just about when I was winning. But I just felt it would be more appropriate not to do the debate. I don't think it's right to do it. If you're leading by 50, 60, I have one problem leading by 70 points, and I'm saying, why am I doing it? And I'm going to have 8 people, 10 people, whoever made the debate, I don't know how many it is, but I'm going to have all these people screaming at me, shouting questions at me. all of which I love answering, I love doing, but it doesn't make sense to do them. So I've taken a pass.
So that was Donald Trump last night in an interview with Tucker Carlson that dropped a few minutes before the debate was set to air. And, typical Trump, funny answer, creative answer, very much on brand and what you would expect. And I'm not sitting here and saying that he's wrong to feel that way. I don't think he is. Now, I haven't seen the poll that shows him up 70 points. But either way, it wouldn't be a Trump answer without a little bit of exaggeration, right? You need a little, come on now. You need just a hair of exaggeration. You know that, and I know that. So anyway, he gives the answer of why he's not there. And while I understand it, I wish that he had been there. I wish he had been there, first off, for his own sake. And then, secondly, I would have liked to have seen him defend some of the things in his record that obviously, while Trump is the best president policy-wise of my lifetime, I would have liked to have heard him go back and forth on some of the issues, a la spending during COVID. Any regrets there? Should we have spent less? Fauci, too much power. Some of those things would have been interesting conversations to hear on that debate stage last night. And at some point, I would like him to defend that record. Hopefully, as this field shrinks, and I hope it shrinks rapidly, there's no point that we should have more than 5 people running for president right now on the Republican side. There's no need for any more than that. Right? I mean, it should really be Trump, DeSantis, Vivek at this point. He's earned it. Nikki Haley, Tim Scott. I mean, that's it. That's the only people we need to hear from right now. Can we get down to 5? Can we have a debate of substance? And can we get Trump on the stage? And Trump's right when he says they're in that clip. Like, I like doing that. And he would have been fine last night. Trump being Trump would have been fine last night. That debate format is made for Donald Trump. I don't think it's really in the best interest of the country anymore to have 8 people on stage barking like, animals at each other. Like, I don't think that's helpful in terms of trying to get to the core issues in this country. But it's entertaining. Like, it works for TV. But it doesn't really work for actual substance. It's okay one-on-one, mano-a-mano. That's where it's okay in a general election. But in these primaries, I mean, it brought back, gosh, I had like PTSD thinking about the 2020 Democrats when there were even like more. There were 10, 11 guys on stage and gals on stage, and it was a total disaster. Oh, my goodness. 913-408-7710. Start with John. He's in Blue Springs. Hey, John, good morning. You're on KCMO.
Good morning. It's kind of like, Peter, it was like watching clown porn. You know it's fake, you know it's phony, but it's frickin' hilarious. And I understand what you're saying. Why even have a debate now? That's what I didn't understand. Why one now? Wait till January. Then you've trimmed down the field to serious candidates, and Trump has to be there. And the serious questions go. Chris Christie, all he's doing is, I'm not Trump. Trump is evil. That's his mantra. That is not a political strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Pence has to break out of the boring milk toast, vanilla wafer guy. He's got to break out of that. And he tried, but he's not good at it because it's not him to his core. The other candidates, they had opportunities. So I'm with you. And I'm with Trump. Because it's a yes and a yes. There was no win for him to be there, to be literally attacked for an hour and a half. Because attack is not a strategy now. The attack is this time next year. Mm-hmm. And if Biden tries to play this, well, I'm not going to debate. Okay. Those are called primary debates. This is real. This is national. Biden will have to debate. He can't gaff it off. But here's the thing, and if you remember when they did in 2020, the big thing with Biden is he wanted to do sit-down debates. He lacks the stamina to stay up there, be sharp, and not be handled for an hour and a half. And that scares his handlers to death.
Yeah, John, said. Well said on many fronts. But here's the thing, when John says, why didn't they wait to host these debates? Well, remember, Fox News runs a television channel. Fox News is in the business of getting viewers. I don't know what the ratings are yet for last night. I don't know, but it will be millions, if not tens of millions of people who tuned in last night. That is obviously far more viewers than we get on a normal Wednesday night. So this stuff is made for TV. That's who it's good for. I'm not convinced it's good for you, the voter. It's made for TV entertainment. At its very core, that's what last night is about. And that's all in many ways they intend for it to be about. And that's why there's going to be another debate in 4 weeks at the end of September. They were even teasing it last night at the Reagan Library. September 27th, I believe is what it is. So it's all about media. It's about television. And that's why they had one last night.
They need to add the game show component of letting us text in at the end of the thing, and we'll vote off some people. Right?
Yes.
Like, dude, get these 3 off, and now next one.
I do like the idea of Family Feud style where we can all go, good answer, yeah. What's your favorite fruit? Hamburger. Good answer. And Steve Harvey's rolling his eyes. Oh, gosh. 913-408-7710. We'll get to more of you as we approach the 7 o'clock hour on KCMO. Quentin Lucas will be here at 7:30 in his usual slot. I do have questions about Vivek Ramaswamy. I will be getting to just after 7. We'll get to your calls as well. And Mark shared something with me last night that just, oh, my goodness, it had me rolling. And if you're enjoying the demise of Bud Light, you'll get a kick out of this next.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you very much there, gentlemen. Appreciate that. I'm like, what the heck? What is Mark doing with the music? This is not where's the rejoin? I'm like, what's going on?
Radio, folks.
Sheesh. You guys are pulling a fast one on me. All right. Well, thank you very much there, gentlemen. Appreciate the birthday well wishes. Jeez, second straight year there's been stuff happening on my birthday. How about that? Last year was Joe Biden rolling out his student debt bailout plan, and this year it's debate reaction and Trump turning himself in at the Fulton County Jail today. Sheesh. What's going to come in 2024? Unbelievable. Well, that's very nice of you guys. Thank you very much. But, hey, it's not about me, all right? Let's talk about the debate last night. Let's talk about somebody else. Vivek Ramaswamy says all the right things, and he sounds good doing it. He'd make a good talk show host, by the way, wouldn't he? Like, if that guy's looking for a new career, I'd hire him to do afternoons on KCMO. He sounds good.
Kind of came off like Eddie Haskell in the Leave It to Beaver show, the fake charm thing last night.
I agree with that. And
he shouldn't have done that. That's not exactly him.
No, it's not him. And it was so cheesy. Vivek Ramaswamy has come out of nowhere. He's this biotech entrepreneur. He's founded billion-dollar companies. A lot of success. But it just comes off slimy to me at times. And the way he opened his commentary at last night's Republican primary debate.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight.
Hey, tonight, hey, how you doing? Oh, gosh.
Yep.
No, thank you.
Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage?
That is a line ripped off from Barack Obama. Who's this skinny guy with a funny last name on this debate stage? That is literally a Barack Obama line from 2008. Barack Obama used that very same line.
Chris Christie picked up that stick and whacked him with it, didn't he?
Chris Christie did pick up that stick, and he did whack him with it. And you know what? I'm not here to be a Chris Christie guy by any stretch of the imagination. But Chris Christie, to his credit, it was the only real good moment for Chris Christie last night, but he did see through this, what I perceive to be, charlatan that is Vivek Ramaswamy.
I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here? Was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that bear hug, brother.
Now, that's, by the way, that's quick thinking by Christie. That's a good memory by Chris Christie. And that is also a good response by Vivek, because if you recall, in 2012, a lot of people believe that Hurricane Sandy crushed New York and New Jersey. Obama shows up on the Jersey Shore. Christie's hugging him like they're, close buddies, if not more. And a lot of people believe that moment helped Barack Obama get reelected. And that's a good reference. Quick on his feet, Vivek Ramaswamy. Smart guy. You got to give him that. Smart guy. But I saw this on Twitter last night about Vivek, and I thought this kind of explains him pretty well. Vivek is a used car salesman who, when asked about whether the vehicle will break down sooner rather than later, will tell you that you're not buying a used car. You're buying the idea of a new car and a new life and a new beginning. Then you buy that car and it breaks immediately. That's how Vivek Ramaswamy comes across. I want to like him because he sounds good, right? But then also the game show host arrogance last night, the cornballiness from Vivek Ramaswamy was just too much. And then when you do a little digging into, this guy's background, you realize that, first off, he ends up going to law school in his mid-20s on a scholarship from the Soros family. That's right. He got a $90,000 scholarship from the Soros family. And the talking point that he has given is, well, I was a poor college kid. Well, that's really not true. The same year he accepted the award, 2011, Vivek Ramaswamy reported $2.2 million in total income. He was working at a hedge fund at the time, QVT Financial. He reported a total of $1.2 million in income the 3 years prior. So in the 4 years prior to accepting a scholarship to go to Yale Law School, he had reported $3.4 million in income. That's not the poor college kid routine that he has portrayed. And then you go through the fact that Vivek Ramaswamy paid a Wikipedia editor to remove information from his page, specifically about his close relationship with a scientist who helped pioneer the mRNA vaccines. So the more you dig into this guy, and the more you look into the background of him, and the more you realize he's even admitted he's only voted in, I think, 2 presidential elections, the more I sit there and I say, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. This is not Donald Trump 2016, right? The concern with Donald Trump was always, well, he was a lifelong guy who donated to Democrats and the whole thing. It was he was a New York billionaire who was trying to curry favor with politicians. That was explainable, much more so than Vivek Ramaswamy showing up out of nowhere. And there was also reports this week that apparently he was going to start a podcast with the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's outlet. And then Ben and his team kind of pulled the plug because they thought he was too programmed. They're like, this guy's too slick for us. There's something here that's not adding up. And now here he is, making a name for himself as a Republican presidential candidate. But I also don't get what the point of Vivek Ramaswamy is, because at one point, they were talking about Trump last night, and I'm paraphrasing here. Vivek says that Donald Trump has been the best politician of his lifetime. And he's right. Vivek's only a couple of years older than me, and he's right. There's no doubt Trump has been, policy-wise, the best president of our lifetimes. However, if you're running for president, as Vivek Ramaswamy is doing, why are you running against the guy who you're saying was the best president of our lifetime and is running again? I get it. You've got to curry favor with Trump and Trump supporters. But you don't sound like you have to be somewhat critical, right? If not, you wouldn't be running against him. Unless this is all about brand building. Unless this really isn't about, running for president and it's about something else, something bigger, something more, or something completely different. And running for office is just an avenue to go about achieving whatever your goals are, whether it's a cabinet position or a TV show or a podcast deal or whatever it might be. But I thought that there were moments last night where Vivek says things and I'm like, gosh, he just nailed the answer. But it just makes you squirm inside. And I'm always, whether it's presidential candidates or car salesmen or contractors, I'm always skeptical of people like that. That seem too good to be true. 913-408-7710. Quentin Lucas will be here at the bottom of the hour. We've got a lot to get to with him because I'm starting to hear some things about the poll that was done in Clay County about how 70% of Clay Countyans apparently don't want to pay or include a sales tax for the new stadium. There's a lot of smoke around that story and where that poll came from. So we'll get to that with the mayor of Kansas City. We'll get to your debate reaction, winners and losers, all coming up. 7:14, Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio. No, I get it. I get it. Last night, Donald Trump comes away the big winner because nobody really broke through. But I just wanted to give you my biggest winner and my biggest loser from last night's Republican debate, which, by the way, aired here on KCMO Talk Radio from 8 to 10. So if you were in the car then, hopefully you were listening here on KCMO, the only station in town that happened to have and air the debate. And we will be as well for the next one, which is September 27th at the Reagan Library. So the biggest winner is somebody I would have never guessed. Now, this is also based on what my expectations were going into it. This is not a person that I think is going to run away and win the nomination or anything like that. It's not who this person is. But I'm just saying from the standpoint of low expectations, I said yesterday I didn't think I would play a clip from this person the entire morning, and I'm wrong. I know that's going to surprise many of you.
Talk about a bombshell.
But I'm wrong. I had a bad prediction. Nikki Haley. I did not see it coming, but Nikki Haley, right out of the gates, said to me the most important thing from the night about how we ended up here. Now, the economic woes we're living through, obviously driven by Joe Biden. That's indisputable. Anybody who tells you otherwise is either named Jill or Hunter Biden or is just not very bright. But clearly, the spending of the last 3.5 years is what got us into this mess. I mean, the Biden spending early 2021 that gave this economy a sugar rush and was clearly bound to end up with inflation is how we, have had to live through the last 2.5, 3 years. And don't tell me, well, inflation's down. Inflation's down, but the prices are still high. It just means the prices aren't going up as fast as they were 1 year ago. People don't feel good about this economy, and we did it to ourselves. But if we're being fair, Nikki Haley pointing out last night in the best point of the night that Republicans aren't innocent in this.
Well, I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us, too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats asked for $2.8 billion. So you tell me who are the big spenders. I think it's time for an accountant in the White House.
All right, that last line was cheesy. But You get the point. The Republican Party is not innocent when it comes to ridiculous spending over the last several years that has helped cause inflation. Now, it was ultimately triggered by this administration in 2021. There would have been, I believe, some kind of inflation coming out of COVID because of how much money we spent in 2020. But now we're sitting here over the last 18 months dealing with prices that have gotten completely out of control and as the economy completely stalled out.
You can tell how it affected Nikki Haley's household. She had to wear a robe to the debate. I was like, what is that? Looked like a robe. But I'm sure a lot of those are selling today, as you know.
I'm sure.
People want the fashions.
I'm sure that's right. So Nikki Haley had that great moment, and I'm like, gosh, somebody's got to say that. That was a breath of fresh air. And by the way, I know people who went on food stamps during COVID. They lost their jobs and whatnot. And she pointed out the numbers. We got 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million on food stamps. I know people who were on food stamps during COVID because they lost their jobs, and they literally can't get off of food stamps. They're like calling the government saying, hey, take me off of the program. And the government is like, no, please just keep taking them. No, please, we insist. Have some food stamps. They used COVID and economic policies from COVID to try to buy off and make people Democratic voters. And the Republicans went along with it for way too long. So Nikki Haley, just that line alone, not that I'm like voting for Nikki Haley. I'm not going to. If she was still even on the ballot by the time they get around to Kansas and Missouri next year. But, even if I was like an Iowa caucus goer, I wouldn't vote for Nikki Haley, but it was a good night for her. And it also just shocked me that she had a good night. The biggest loser was Mike Pence. Mike Pence came off like such a smug, arrogant, unlikable. I don't want to say the word that was next up in my mind, so I won't.
So start with a P or a D?
D. It started with a D.
Okay.
I was going with the D word.
Going to go with the PR. It rhymes with, sounds like.
It kind of rhymes with, Rick. But hey, I was like, who is this guy? What'd you do with Mike? It was like a guy dressed up as Mike Pence for Halloween or something. Like, this is not the easy-to-like evangelical Christian that everybody typically got along with. This was a Mike Pence trying to do a fake tough guy routine, and he just wouldn't shut up.
And we are driving Russia further into China's arms. The Russia-China military alliance is the single greatest threat we face. Okay. Nobody in either political party is talking about it. And I am the only non-neocon on this stage who will keep us out of war.
Mr. Vice President, we can't hear Mr. Vice President.
Is to give Russia everything they've got.
Mr. Vice President.
Give them a promise that Ukraine will never be in NATO, and then somehow China will not think about taking Taiwan. We achieve peace through strength.
Mr. Vice President.
America needs to stand for freedom.
Okay, here we go.
I think we need to reestablish some ground rules
When we hear this bell,
yes,
that means your time's done.
Ding, ding. Civility
That's
bell.
double jeopardy.
Yeah, it's just, but he was doing that stuff all night. And Mike Pence got the most speaking time last night. And all due respect to Mike Pence, he has no business speaking the most on stage last night. And he was doing that constant, I must respond. No, Mike, no. The polling shows nobody wants to hear from you, Mike. Sorry, bro. It was such a turnoff. I mean, I don't need to see Mike Pence on the debate stage anymore. I'm over it. I'm over him. Coming up on KCMO, news is about a minute away. And then, what was Fox doing last night? I thought I was watching CNN at one point. I mean, goodness gracious. Topic-wise was awful. We'll get to it coming up. Well, that's what I kept thinking last night as I'm watching the debate. I mean, everyone's got their own angle on it, but it's like, geez, let's go, Brandon. Gosh, oh, my goodness gracious. Woo! Unbelievable.
This is absolutely lit. This is lit. Yeah,
it was pretty lit last night. And Fox News was such a disappointment last night for a multitude of reasons. So out of the gates, they ask, I thought they were going to do Trump first. Get it out of the way. Hey, there's a missing person here. Har, 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 har. Let's get Trump out of the way and then move on. They didn't do that. They started with the economy. And that's fine, too. And they set it up by playing, I thought they overproduced the Open, where they played Oliver Anthony's Rich Men North of Richmond. And they're like, people are hurting in this country. Let's play a little bit of the song. And now let's get to the economy. And it was like, just, okay. I know you guys want to produce things and make it look pretty and sound pretty, but just get to it. The economy blows. How are you going to fix it? I mean, it's really that simple. Okay, I don't need the Oliver Anthony, strumming the guitar. I love the song. I love the guy, but just get to it. All right? Stop wasting my time.
Drop the TMZ stuff.
Yeah, let's just get going here. So they get to the economy out of the gates, and, people answer it as you would expect. I played the Nikki Haley clip that I thought was one of the best answers of the night. But then, after that, the next two topics in a GOP primary debate, what do you think they would go to next? What's the thing that makes the most amount of... What do Republicans care about? In a primary debate, what do they want to hear? After the economy's not doing well, what's next? Might it be, I don't know, immigration? 5 million people crossing the border the last 3.5 years? Would it be that? No, you'd be wrong.
Public education?
No, it wasn't school choice either. Maybe it's Hunter Biden, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's foreign policy, China, as Trump would say. But nope. They decided the second topic of the night was going to be climate change. If you guessed that, you are right. Climate change was topic number 2. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I had to check the corner of my screen. What am I watching? Is this a Republican
right.
debate on CNN? What?
Fake news.
Or is this a Republican debate on MSNBC? Is Chuck Todd doing this with his crappy bowl cut? What am I watching here? Is Jake Tapper doing it, or Wolf Blitzer, who looks permanently constipated? What am I watching? Oh, this is Fox. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I'm on the right channel here. This is Fox News, Republican primary debate. And question 2 is climate change. What? Because here's the thing about these debates. I watch them for all 2 hours because it's part of what I do. But most people are going to watch the first 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then, things start to go downhill. People are moving on. They're tuning out. I mean, you really got, I think, the first 20 to 30 minutes to hit the key topics. And when they go from the economy to climate change, and they set it up with this young kid, young people care about climate change. Well, I'm, far younger than Brett Baer and Martha McCallum. And I can tell you just from my perspective, not that I wouldn't love to see a cleaner climate, I would, but how about we just have a real conversation about climate change and the fact that we have data going back 150 years in a, Earth that's millions of years old. And on top of that, until anyone's going to do anything about emissions coming out of China and India, I don't want to hear about how I'm destroying the planet by driving an SUV.
Cutting your grass.
I just don't want to hear it. So it was such a weird second topic. And then I'm like, all right, whatever. They threw a bone with climate change number 2. What's topic number 3 going to be? And this is the topic that got the most amount of attention based on the time I saw. They broke down the time for each topic this morning. The topic that got the most amount of attention in a Republican primary debate was abortion. Now, I know Roe v. Wade gets overturned and abortion's been a big topic. But abortion is now a state issue. That's what Roe v. Wade did. It made it a state issue. It's really not an issue that's worthy of being talked about in a presidential debate on either side of the aisle for the most part. And I got to give Nikki Haley credit on this too. I mean, everyone's up there like, I believe in this on abortion. I believe in that. And her point was kind of a broader point of how about we stop and we really talk about the Democrats being very radical on this issue. The fact that, the media is always grilling us on saying, oh, your abortion policies are too stringent. And we say to them, hey, your abortion policies are too loose. You don't even have a policy on the other end. I mean, some of you guys will do abortion up until birth. Force their hand on when they would limit abortion, especially when, Most European countries are at 15 weeks. And you've got people in this country, prominent people in one of the two major political parties, who don't think there should be any restrictions on that topic. Nikki Haley, to her credit, was right about that as well. But why is this even the third issue that's getting talked about in this debate? I'm sitting here ripping my hair out saying, are you doing this debate to give CNN clips for its morning show the next day? Was that the goal of Fox News last night, to try to box in the candidates on abortion that most Republican voters understand is a state-by-state issue and is for the most part irrelevant? And isn't that where a lot of us wanted it to be for such a long period of time, back in control of the states? Why are we talking about this at all as a federal issue anyway? We just fought for 50 years to get it back to the state level, and now you got these people boxing themselves into a corner like, yeah, I think this, I want that, I believe in this. It's like, we just worked for 50 years to get it back to the states. It's great that you got your beliefs, but who are you winning over by doing this? What's the purpose of this? And the fact that Fox thought it was the third most important topic to Republican primary voters, and they go economy, climate change, and abortion? And then, to John's point, education came up at 9:40 last night. Crime came up at 8:45 last night. Yeah, we'll get to crime and education and things like that. Yeah, we'll get around to it. But we really want to talk climate change and abortion. Jeez. You think they were doing Joe's bidding last night? It was beyond bizarre, the order that they decided to go in this thing. And I was just completely blown away.
I have that setting on my computer. It's the media filter. That's all filtered through media speak, isn't it?
Yeah, yes.
Right?
That's exactly right. And here's the other thing as well, just so you're aware, I have a lot of audio from last night, but we are limited. Fox News is limiting, and I'm not going to necessarily knock them for this, but I do think it's a mistake for them. They're limiting how much other media can play clips from last night's debate, including those of us who are partners with them. And I guess that's their prerogative. But to me, for all the people saying that Fox News is in the tank for somebody other than Trump, this is actually a good thing for Trump, because everyone in media has to limit the amount of clips they can play. Whereas if I was playing more clips from last night, Vivek Ramaswamy, Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, whoever, you would get to hear more of the other candidates in case you missed it. But Fox has put strict limits on what other media outlets can play today on their shows, radio, TV, podcast, whatever. So it's a weird decision by Fox, and everyone assumes that they don't want Trump to be the nominee, but this actually helps Trump because now people are going to hear less from the other candidates in the wake of the debate. So I don't get that at all. 913-408-7710. It's 913-408-7710 as we at 8:15 on a busy Thursday morning. And I've got to share with you what I'm hearing, by the way, on this ballpark deal and specifically where this Clay County poll came from. It's pretty interesting stuff we'll get into next. 8:20, happy post-election day morning on KCMO Talk Radio. It was quite a night last night as we watched it all unfold. Bill Eigel is going to be here in a half hour as he's going to be joining us as he gets set to launch a bid for Missouri governor here in the next couple of weeks. We'll also get his reaction to last night's debate on KCMO Talk Radio. Meantime, I haven't yet even dove in. Geez, it's been such a busy morning. But you heard a lot the last couple of days about Clay County and the fact that the Royals are in a position where they're considering North KC, Clay County, and, of course, downtown Kansas City, Missouri, and Jackson County. So the renderings, the pretty photos come out a couple of days ago. And on the same day, the Kansas City Business Journal drops this report that says a poll was conducted that suggests 70% of Clay County voters would not vote for a sales tax to help fund the Royals' new ballpark. Not a coincidence at all that somebody leaks that poll the same day that the renderings come out. Now, the last 24 to 36 hours, I've talked to a lot of people about that poll, the renderings, and where it came from. And there's a lot of speculation that the poll suggesting that Clay County would not vote for a sales tax to fund a baseball stadium came from prominent people in and around Jackson County, south of the river, and City Hall. The suggestion has been that people who have skin in the game, who want to see the Royals stay in Kansas City, Missouri, who want to move them downtown, help get this poll out there. Help maybe fund this poll. Organizations, and I'm not going to name organizations, but organizations that may have skin in the game downtown, who have stakeholders in the game downtown, prominent business folks as well, who, whether directly or indirectly, help commission this poll in a way to try to send a message to the Royals that is, hey, you guys don't have a chance of getting any money from up north. There's no way that those guys up north would vote for a sales tax to help fund your ballpark. So, maybe you got some problems with Jackson County, but, you should really just stay here. Don't even waste your time. Don't bother. It's not worth it. Just stay here. But I talked to some people in the know, and they told me that John Sherman was pissed. The owner of the Royals, was pissed that this poll got leaked the same day the renderings came out, because the Royals wanted renderings day on Tuesday to be just a, celebratory, look at our pretty photos. Oh, couldn't you imagine this ball? Oh, it's so beautiful. That's what they wanted Tuesday to be about. And instead, the Kansas City Business Journal drops this poll. No one knows where it came from. No one knows who paid for it. And it becomes the story of the day. And you could hear it in the voice of Executive Vice President Sarah Torville. She got asked about the poll during the press conference on Tuesday, and you can hear in her voice that she is not happy.
We were made aware of that poll today. We aren't sure who commissioned that poll.
So you can hear, we were made aware of it today, and then right away she goes to, we're not sure who commissioned it, insinuating that somebody commissioned the poll who doesn't want to see the Royals go to Clay County. That was right out of the gates what Sarah Torville, the executive vice president for the Royals, insinuated in her comments.
What I can tell you is that we've assembled a team of local and national experts with sophisticated polling experience. That polling data has been very constructive, and we see a path to victory in both counties.
We see a path to victory in both counties. Now, she didn't say we're above 50% in both or either county, Clay and Jackson, but she said we see a path to victory for a sales tax in both counties to fund a new Royals ballpark. That's what she ended up saying. But you can just, not that I've heard her speak a lot, but you can tell she's not happy. You can tell she's ticked off. And from what I heard, the ownership group was beyond ticked off that they dropped that poll the same day the renderings come out.
Right. That way the Royals don't really have a chance to look it over, maybe come up with a couple of rebuttals or what have you. But I don't think this wasn't objective, because I don't think it mentioned how many Jackson County voters would approve that. Is that right?
You're right. Well,
that's just focused on one county.
It just focused on one county.
How big this number is.
Yes. And that's where a lot of people have drawn conclusions to suggest, all right, if you're going to do a poll wondering what one of the two counties being considered and what their taxpayers think, why wouldn't you do the other one? Maybe because you want to see the other one win out.
And because they don't want to know that 90% of residents in all counties don't want to move and like the stadium where it is.
Well, that's true as well. They wouldn't want that poll to come out, right?
Can't have that.
Yeah, no. No way on that. So they just dropped this convenient poll of 300 Clay County registered voters, 70% of whom claim they would not vote for a sales tax to fund the Royals. But as many noted as well yesterday to me, and I saw this, I don't know if it was public or private, but people noticed this to me privately. Any poll that's commissioned that doesn't have an undecided option is a sham poll looking to draw a certain conclusion.
Yep.
There were no undecideds in that poll about Clay County. And anytime there's no undecideds, that tells you that it's a poll that is trying to draw a specific answer out of the people they're polling.
You can tell yourself that the topic is so passionate that no one's undecided, but there's always, and you're like, who are these goobers?
Yeah, but they are.
But they exist.
They exist, all right? I mean, it's like when people, I can't believe people are undecided between Trump and Biden. Like,
yeah,
we love the fact that you're here, many of you, every day, consuming our show, listening to this show and this radio station. But for every one of you, there's many people who are not, who, like last night, we're watching the debate and we're like, Vivek Ramaswamy, what? Who's this guy? Like they're just not paying attention. But they're finally starting to pay attention. There's a lot of those people out there. So whether it's presidential elections or sales taxes for baseball stadiums, people are just catching up oftentimes. 913-408-7710 to join us on KCMO Talk Radio. Speaking of last night's debate, Trump did a sit down instead with Tucker Carlson, and he had an incredible answer about Kamala Harris. And if you didn't see it, you are not going to want to miss it, and we'll get to it
Such a nice man.
Good question on the text line. Pete, who wore more makeup last night at the debate? Brett Baer or Martha McCallum? That's a great question. I mean,
She's a real beauty.
I noted, Kate and I were talking about how Martha was looking very tan last night, like a little too much on the tanner. And then, Brett grew another half inch on those veneers last night. I was like, geez. I mean, boy, he's going to look like a horse pretty soon if those things keep growing.
This Republican debate is brought to you by Electric Beach Tanning Solutions.
That's right. Oh, gosh. But those are the important questions we've got to figure out the answers to this morning on KCMO. Welcome in. Debate last night obviously took place, but also happening last night, Tucker Carlson interviewing Donald Trump. So Tucker drops the interview with Trump. Clearly it was pre-recorded. They dropped the interview with Trump about 50 minutes long at 7:55 our time, 5 minutes before they were set to begin the debate. Tucker drops the interview with Donald Trump. And, I watched, it was 50 minutes, so I'm trying to watch both things and monitor stuff on my phone. It was just crazy. And the Trump stuff, there was really nothing new there per se. It wasn't, it was what you would expect, I guess, out of the interview. But the best part was when Tucker asked him about, what Democrats might do if Joe is not able to run or chooses not to run for re-election in 2024. And it set up, to me, what was one of the better back and forths of the entire interview where they're talking about Kamala Harris. Let's roll it.
So back to Biden, I'm interested. So you think he's failing? He obviously is failing. I think it's clear to everybody. But that would make Kamala Harris the candidate?
Well, not really. I mean, I guess they'd have maybe a free-for-all. A lot of people say she has to remain for certain reasons the candidate. She has to. I don't think that's true, actually. I don't think that other people would stand for it. She has some bad moments. Her moments are almost as bad as his. I think his are worse, actually.
Yeah.
But
she seems pretty senile, too.
She speaks in rhyme.
What?
It's weird.
What?
It's weird. But she has bad moments. And
in rhyme? What do you...
Well, the way she talks, the bus will go here and then the bus will go there because that's what buses do. And it's weird. The whole thing is weird. This is not a president of the United States future. And I think they probably have some kind of a primary and other people will get involved.
Newsom, right?
Could be. I mean, I always got along well with him, believe it or not. But could be him, could be somebody else. He's got a big load on his shoulders because you look at California, what's happened. But I don't know if the American people really, the people that vote for him, I don't even know if they care. You look at so many of the things that are going on, and people don't seem to be. In the old days, if you had a bad record, it meant a lot. Today, if you have a bad record, it doesn't really mean anything. He looks good. He's a nice-looking guy, speaks well. But Biden, every time you watch him talking, it's like he's walking on eggs. You're waiting for him to collapse. And he almost always does.
Come on, man.
There you go. So Trump got a lot in there, obviously. First off, I love the big load on his shoulders. That just had me dying, you know?
Yeah, I'm in here laughing like Beavis and Butthead. He said big load.
But first off, when he noted Kamala Harris, you know, he said that she talks in rhyme. The bus goes here, the bus goes there. And it made me think of one of her all-time great quotes.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
One of the all-time great American sound bites. That's right. It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Kamala Harris. Michael Scott. Sorry, no, Kamala Harris. No, Michael Scott. No, okay, it's Kamala. It's not Michael Scott. But anyway, and then you hear the best part of what Trump said, the most important part about what he said there, was when he said, people don't care about your record. I mean, he's right. Like, he's talking about, all right, if it's not Joe, is it Kamala? And if it's not Kamala, is it Gavin Newsom, the governor of California? And by no reasonable metric would anybody look at the resume of Gavin Newsom and what's happened in that state. First time in California history the last few years that people are leaving the state at a higher rate than they're moving into the state. And that's just one example. The crime in the cities, everything else. No one cares about what you've done anymore. I mean, he is so right about that. No, because of the division in the country, the one side is evil, one side is pure. You add that all together, and you have a situation where people will blindly follow somebody because of the letter next to their name. Instead of actually looking at what they've done, calling out the bad, recognizing the good if there is any, but then saying, based on what this person has actually done in their job, do I want them being fill in the blank? President, governor, U.S. senator, whatever. We don't even do that anymore. And that's the worst thing that's happened in our American political landscape. The fact that anybody would even consider Gavin Newsom. Okay, fine, he's checked off all the, far-left Democratic boxes in California. And what's it done? What has it accomplished? A state that has a larger wealth gap than almost any in the country, despite the fact that it's the most progressive, air quotes, has people fleeing at record numbers. Nobody can get ahead there unless you're super wealthy. I got a brother-in-law, and he's outside of San Francisco. And he's like, we don't know how we're ever going to have a family and have kids here. But he wants to do it because he loves the state, surfer and the whole thing. Loves the state, but has no idea how he's ever going to get ahead. City's gone to hell in a handbasket, and Gavin Newsom's overseen all of it. Yet if Joe doesn't go, if he's not the guy, Newsom's the front runner. Why? He's got a pretty smile and he talks well. And it's sad to say, but that's like all it takes now in politics. And there's local examples of that, and there's national examples of that.
Well, he's got a great track record of ruining status quo, right?
Well, yes, he's
That's
really...
what you're looking for. Those Cuomo boys, they've kind of slacked off back in New York. So, the California guys step up.
He's taking it next level. I mean, who's the governor of Illinois? What's his name? The big old fat guy there. J.B. Pritzker, I think his name.
Pritzker.
Yeah, Pritzker, I believe his name is. I mean, he's going to be next up on the list. I mean, goodness gracious. And then here's the other thing we do, and this brings it back to last night and the Republican primary. Everyone's loving Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't get it. He comes off to me like a used car salesman. I love what he says, but then I take a step back and I'm like, okay, donated to Act Blue, big Democratic PAC in 2020. George Soros funded... Technically, George's older brother. Soros-funded scholarship to go to Yale Law School when he was already making millions of dollars at an investment bank. That's concerning. Very close ties to mRNA folks. And, he said things in his books and in columns about death taxes that are in no way conservative. But he sounds good. Like he's really good in conversation, in interviews, in debate settings. So I see a guy like him, and then I think about, okay, he's saying things that Ron DeSantis has actually done in Florida. Now, he says it prettier than Ron DeSantis does because Ron's not really very good at this stuff in terms of debating and interviews and things like that. But Ron DeSantis has actually gone after the woke establishment. He's fired Soros prosecutors. He's defended parents' rights in classrooms in Florida. He's done a good job on the illegal immigration front, sending them up to Martha's Vineyard. Like, he's actually done the thing that Vivek Ramaswamy talks about, yet because Vivek says it in a prettier way, despite the fact that he has no experience doing any of it, it's like, how about that guy Vivek? Wow.
I think it suggests the vacuum where Republicans, myself included, are, anxious, hungry for someone who has the comebacks prepared, right? So Ramaswamy seems like he's got it all down, but maybe we need to listen a little further.
Listen a little further and also just be like, all right, he's saying things that are great, but he hasn't done any of it because he hasn't really been in a position to do any of it. But if I have a guy who's actually done it in Ron DeSantis, if those issues are the most important to me culturally speaking, why wouldn't I choose the guy who's done it versus the guy who says it prettier than the other guy? Just something to think about.